So I'll be honest in the sense that I almost didn't even make a video for this valuation section because it's so straightforward and so self-explanatory, and it doesn't really change over time. It can't change over time, at least not with integrity. And that is the inception date. And the whole idea behind tracking the inception date and relating it to value is if you look at many different companies and especially really innovative technologies over time, in the beginnings of that market and in the beginnings of that technology, there tends to be a first mover advantage. At least that's what they call it in marketing, because if you're the first to market with something, sometimes you have a patent for it. In the case of cryptocurrencies, there's definitely no patents. It's a lot more open source and democratic in that sense, which is why I like it. But I think one of the biggest first mover advantages when it comes to cryptocurrency that's worth noting is the fact that the first mover specifically, and a few of the first movers that came pretty soon thereafter, like Litecoin, Ethereum, stuff like that, they tend to cater the most to the innovators and the early adopters. So for those of you who are familiar with the adoption cycle of a product or the adoption cycle of a new technology for that matter, you have your innovators. In this case, it's like your cypherpunks, the ones who are like really in on the ground floor of Bitcoin and really believe in its mission. They're more of your like hardcore pro democracy libertarian types, and I feel like even though there's been many other coins that have come after Bitcoin, I feel like Bitcoin itself caters the most to those passionate, more fanatical types, and from what I can tell probably always will, so long as something catastrophic doesn't happen to the network, because everything that has come thereafter hasn't been quite as democratic, quite as decentralized, because even Ethereum and a lot of the other ones who are earlier more that were released earlier in the process, I should say, even they have headquarters that are domiciled somewhere, they still have a central point or a central person or perhaps both that can be a target and therefore a vulnerability when it comes to the health of the entire project and the entire network. Whereas Bitcoin, they're Satoshi Nakamoto, you can't come after him because they are a pseudonym. It's like Phantom of the Opera style. And obviously Bitcoin isn't domiciled in any particular country, therefore it's not going to be subject to any jurisdiction issues, like any country's regulations coming after them. Like Bitcoin is the epitome of the decentralized currency that it was designed to be. And again, that really cares more towards the innovators and the early adopters in this space. And I think that in and of itself will continue to give it its own first mover advantage. Like how it gets adopted through the rest of the cycle, it'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't be surprised if some other coins that are more liquid and have a faster running network than Bitcoin tend to do better, but we'll see over time. There's so many variables, it's tough to speculate, but bottom line is this section was designed to see how long a coin has been around for, and the longer it's been around for, the longer of a chance it's had to gain a market share and therefore potentially create value for itself, which is why it's the first thing that I do when I am evaluating a new coin. So I hope this is helpful. So once upon a time, when the crypto markets were still relatively new, I felt like Alice in Wonderland. I traditionally had a finance background, but this was all very new and exciting. And it was a market that didn't have understood valuation metrics. Like in traditional finance, you have all kinds of ratios to help you evaluate whether or not a certain stock is worth its value. But in cryptocurrency, especially in the early days, that didn't exist. So I went in and tried to make some sense out of Wonderland, so to speak. So for the past few years, majority of the quarters over the past few years, I have pulled the top 25 market cap data from coinmarketcap.com and evaluated each one, stacking it against my theories of how to determine value for these coins and for these projects. And it really has been helpful over time. I've gotten to realize a lot of projects that really deserve more consideration for investment, as well as others that quickly rose to the top 25 via that good old hype train, but likely didn't have the intrinsic value and integrity that it took to stay there. But now that my evaluation metrics, as well as the crypto markets in general, are a lot more established, I no longer plan on pulling all top 25 and running the numbers every single quarter. Instead, I'm going to continue to use these metrics that have worked well for me over time, but I'm going to do it on more of an as wanted basis when deciding between potentially good and bad investments that I've been curious about. So if you are watching this video from my website, then feel free to scroll down in each respective section and you'll get to see examples of past data pulls that I've done and the merits behind them and how it has helped determine value over time. If you're not watching this video from my website, then there will be a goodie bag full of links in the description section so you can be directed to these respective places to check out past data pulls. And yeah, feel free to use these methods and hopefully they can help your due diligence process. But please keep in mind that they are some of many, emphasis on the word many, ways to conduct due diligence and to do your research on investments that you might not only want to put money into, but maybe time. In the case of being an open source developer, that's your time and your development effort is a very precious resource too. So I would say spend it wisely, do it on projects that are really going to be worth it over time. And at the end of the day, like with everything, it's all done at your own risk, but I still hope that these are as helpful for you as they have been for me in terms of shedding light on evaluating these projects. And I wish you the best of luck on your crypto endeavors. And P.S. that this Alice clip is going to be placed at the end of each how to evaluate crypto video in order to give it a little more context. So in the future, if you've hit this point in the video and you're late for a very important date, then feel free to skip it because you won't have missed anything new.